Hi, and welcome back to Mike and Peter talking about mental health in the legal profession. Mike is a lawyer, as you know, and I am the psychologist, therapist, and we pick up themes that we hear about or that we personally think should be given a bit of a discussion and debate. Recently, there has been a number of surveys done on the state of the mental health in the legal profession. And ALM, the American Law Magazine, is very good at doing that once a year. And we had a report out just a few weeks ago with results of the latest findings. And you and I are asking ourselves, have things got better? Still the same? So what was it that you particularly picked out from that report, Mike?
Yeah, so American Lawyer really does do a great job with this survey, and I think it's important to look to have this data for anyone that's focused on well-being and legal industry, because data drives decisions, and the results from this year's survey, I think, were to many a little surprising and upsetting because rather than showing improvements on a lot of key questions, it actually showed worsening. So there was more people reporting feeling depressed, more people reporting feeling anxious, more people reporting feeling burnout. And they also asked a number of questions, new questions this year, that were like, how do you feel? Do you feel exhausted? Right? Do you feel hopeless? And the answers to those questions were also pretty eye-opening. So I think the initial reaction is, well, if we're out here, there's an increasing level of focus. There's a lot of advocacy. There's a lot of talk at law firms about changes. And this issue of lawyer well-being is very front and center in a way that it really hasn't been in the past. At least over the past couple of years, it has been. So I think the initial reaction is, well, my gosh, we're out here talking about this stuff and making these changes. How is it not getting better? So I'm curious to get your thoughts. I certainly have some thoughts, but I'd love to hear kind of your reaction to that, Peter.
My reaction is always when I see those surveys that it's a survey, it's a sample of those who chose to take part in the survey. So we can't draw this global conclusion from it. That would be nice if we could, but it's still showing a trend. And it is not just asking one segment of the legal industry. This one is actually also asking other people who work in the legal industry. So it's not just about lawyers this time. It's also about the support staff, and they too feel suicidal, depressed, anxious. So there must be some kind of trend in the legal industry which says we don't care about people. But I don't think it's expressed like that. I think it's about, we've never done this. We don't know what it's all about. Let's just get down to business and do some law stuff. It's an old industry. It has tradition for being very hierarchical, big boss at the top and the minions further down. And I think that is still there and slowly developing. But what I don't like to see is year on year, we get either the same or worse results, which means there must be somebody out there doing nothing. And with every situation you have, you can either do something else, or do nothing. And it seems that the talk that is happening amongst those who have already, if I can use that expression, seen the light. Those who understand that a business is only as healthy as the people inside it. But maybe they're not the ones responding to the surveys. Maybe, I don't know, you always have to ask these questions to a mix of juniors, medium, seniors, different types of people to understand their feelings. And American law does a wonderful job, and it's a good spread, and you can see the demographics and how old and male, female, all those things. But it is as if we're talking to deaf ears, that we have talk, but we have no action. or the action is actually not being promoted?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's so much to unpack there. I do think, so in terms of the survey, I know the people that responded to the survey very heavily, big law firms, and also very heavily skewed towards younger people 0 through 5 years of experience. Those are just demographically the majority of the respondents to this one. And I think, yeah, I mean, I share a lot of, I understand what you're saying, right? It just, when you look at a survey, it doesn't necessarily give you the whole picture, but it can show trends. So I also think, part of this, maybe, we're talking about this issue more people are thinking about depression or anxiety or burnout. So more people are saying, oh yeah, I think I do have that. So I think that might be part of it, but definitely not all of it. And I think the negative trend is, at first I was very upset by it. I'm still upset by it, but in terms of thinking about it and thinking about the pace of change, like we're out there talking about it more. But there, and but in terms of the fundamental changes, I don't think, like you said, I don't think law firms, especially big law firms, have in the past 2 years made really fundamental changes. And you think about things like the billable hour, or like, only being evaluated based on certain metrics that you feel may not capture the whole you, or how you are as a mentor or a leader or a creative thinker. So I think that maybe it's a little silly to expect change, in a year when there haven't been big changes, and recognizing that this is a sort of slow thing with institutional change, and that, sometimes it gets a little worse before it gets better. Maybe that's the optimist in me. But yeah, I read a headline and I remember it sort of saying, wow, this really puts a fine point on it. It was sometime in the past 6 months when, in reaction to kind of all the work-life balance stuff and DEI stuff and mental health stuff, there was a headline from some big law firm that said, have we reached peak empathy? And I'm thinking like, well, it's almost as if people say, well, now we can just go back to normal. And I think that's part of what the fight is against. I think that, there's an anecdote that one young lawyer shared with me in the past year that said, I was in a meeting where the senior lawyer was saying, hey, you have to all take care of your mental health, and you have to get away from your screens, you have to take walks, you have to take breaks. And then literally within the same meeting, the same person saying, but also, like, 75 hours last week, like, we can do better than that. And just feeling kind of whipsawed, like, I'm talking about this, but then my daily existence doesn't seem to integrate into that. So I think, I don't know, that's a smattering of my thoughts.
And you're onto something for sure. And I think it's a generational thing, because if you look at the statistics from the International Bar Association or American Lawyer, they consistently talk about how the younger generations, the 20-something to 30-something, I think it's 24 to 35 is a gap, are the ones who feel the worst in the legal profession. As soon as you get over 50 or into your 60s, things are great. And they are probably the people who make life hell for the juniors, for the younger ones, because they're still in the old school thinking. But I just think it's not fair to wait until all those people retire and new blood sort of rise to the top, to wait for change for that long. Yeah. And when you say something like, I just had to write it down, have we reached peak empathy? Now that really is a horrendous comment to come with, because, oh yeah, it's just going to blow over. It's just a fad. It's just something that, oh, we have to go through this nonsense. I have had people outside of the legal industry who says, no, we haven't got time for this mental health thing. Well, it's not something new. It's always been there. We just dealt with it badly. Now we have to deal with it properly. But there is this whole thing about money and power. Sure. If we have to protect somebody, it means that we think they're less effective, less productive, because they need time off, or they can't work 80 hours a week, or whatever it is. So you see the dollar signs or the pound signs, whatever signs you're looking at, and think, oh, if he or she is not working their socks off, then they're not productive. Can't have that. Must push, push, push. Where the opposite is actually the case. If you give people a chance to breathe and do see their kids and do go to their boys' ball game or whatever, then they come back invigorated and they produce far better work, and their brain is fresh. So I keep saying to everyone who cares to listen that business is not about business. It's about relationships. And the better your relationships, the better your business.
Yeah, 100%.
And, poor mental health is a massive business risk. But it hasn't translated into the thinking of the senior partners. It must be where the chain comes off, because if they want it, they get it typically, don't they? So yeah, if they can see the point, but I don't think they know what's in it for them. And I don't want to make partners into some nasty people. I just think they're not equipped properly to understand the people aspect of their business.
Yeah, and I think we're painting with a broad brush, because I do know people out there who are good leaders, who are doing good things, who have shifted their way of thinking, and I know people doing good work, and including firm leaders. But I think we must look at these numbers, and we should be sad about them. And we should want to do something about them. I think the positive is, like you said, the generational aspect. That's the next generation of leaders, and that's the next generation and the current generation of talent that everyone's competing to recruit. And you have two choices as a leader, right? You could say, this new mental health stuff, that's just lazy thinking, and in my day we did it this way, right? Or you can say, okay, like, I'm going to change the way we do things a little bit and give it some room to breathe. And I think that, like you said, it is going to translate into the business dollars and cents. But I think that is, it's a slow burn. But so I think, my bottom line on this was, I was sad to see it. Then I sort of convinced myself, like, maybe it's okay, change is slow. But in the end, I think we should be sad to see it. We should be sad to see the lack of progress when we feel like there should be more, and we should be asking ourselves why.
And I'm with you on this one. I'm sad to see it as well. I can't sit and wait for something to happen. So it just spurs me on to do more work and try to engage even more with law firms. And I'm happy to work with the law firms who are kind of on the fence. I know those who are completely closed off will never be my client anyway. But there are those who are thinking, maybe it is at least worth a conversation. And once you get to that point, we start moving the needle in the right direction. So as always, if you have thoughts, ideas, solutions, war stories, good, bad, or indifferent, let us have them so we can keep this conversation going, because it is important that we keep an eye on the mental health and well-being in the legal profession. Thank you for watching. Take care now.